Hello? We good? Yeah, we're good. Alright, just making sure. Okay. Probably pop right into story. Yep. I've done a little touch up on it. Make sure everything makes sense. Make sure everything looks good. Got 52 chapters total. So the big book. We are not going to get to all 52 chapters today. No way. I'm going to aim for 10 chapters, but we'll see how this goes. Yeah. Aim for 10 chapters, but definitely under 2 hours. Maybe 1 hour, because, well, I gotta have time to eat before I post a stream. Yeah, you'll be streaming Minecraft Hermitcraft today, hopefully, if all goes well. I don't know. Yeah. And Snappy will be uploading Tears of the Kingdom today, I guess. Also, of course, he doesn't, which is possible, but that doesn't matter, because, yeah, I can watch it later. Yeah, basically, we go into the next installment of the storyline that we're going with us. First, we see the Clockwork, Hermit Outcry, Redstone Infestation, The Lost Hermits, Terrible Price, and Resilience, which we finished last week, if you remember. Yeah, that was a very interesting story. Yeah, this is basically based on my Clockwork Chronicles series world, where I put a lot of hermits in this world to see what comes of it. It's not canon to anything related to the series or what the hermits are doing. Just so you know, it's not related in any way, because that's not my intent. I'm just having a little fun and practice, just to improve my skills, let's just say. Yeah. We should probably get right into this. Yeah. Let's do this. Chapter 1. Alright, yeah, of course, perspective is impulse. You probably already figured that out from the thumbnail. I don't think I have to say it. That was a pretty good design, though. I just came up with it. Hello there, friend. How's it going? We are here about to read the first chapter of Together Forever. Yeah, I kind of like the title. Yeah. So we should probably get right into it, shall we? Yeah. If you guys saw in the previous videos, there was a different title name, like this is the book. But, yeah, I just merged the two stories, if you didn't already know that. How do you do that? I'll find a way. Chapter 1. Impulse walked down the hallway, back into the workshop, the sun just about rising over the horizon. Weeks had passed since anyone had heard from whoever was now in charge of Mysterious Men, even though they had Royster, the traitor, and another soldier in custody. No one had given them anything on who this mysterious man or woman was. Not that it mattered, as he pulled something out of his redstone box on the floor. Impulse looked down at the object, an invisibility detector, as the hermit looked out the window. They were near the edge of the wall. Not too far from Gem's base was a tower that was under construction. Green and Sky had decided to stay for a little while longer within the walls of Gem and Pearl's makeshift fortress. Don't I comment on every Stabby video? Not as much anymore because, well, YouTube doesn't like it when I do. So every now and again, I will either leave a comment or something. Not a lot of people have found it though, so. I definitely left the comment in the last Lovely World video that nobody's found yet, so. The typical person who usually finds it is a treat, but yeah. And I also go for the potato. If you find the potato, you'll find me there. Usually you will find me in the potatoes. Making a Hermitcraft reference, obviously. Because why not? Why not? Green and Sky decided to stay for a little while longer within the walls of Gem and Pearl's makeshift fortress, as no one could be sure whether or not it was safe to go back to their bases. Impulse remembered the last time they tried to go back. He had been attacked by Cheryl no more than a few minutes after he got home. It was always possible a trap was lurking before their very feet at any moment. He shook his head and smiled at the thought. If there was any trouble, they would know. He'd made sure of it by rigging up both bases with invisibility detectors, cameras, in the hallway, and a few traps to surprise the men if they tried to use an old tunnel system they'd created. It would slow any pursuit down. So far, there had been nothing. He put the detector on the table, examining it for a moment. Impulse knew he needed to make more for the tower Green and Scar were currently building in the hopes of having a place for them to stay to spread them out a little bit more, while staying close in case of danger. Currently, Beat-Ups was staying with Pearl, and Impulse wasn't sure if that was even going to last much longer. After all, there had been no sign of danger, or any sign of the men were even after him anymore. Apart from maybe the fact that he'd helped the cause destroy 3 viruses now that Royster was out of the picture. Hopefully for good. That man had caused more harm than good to his friends. Of course, with whoever was in charge, if the man or woman felt a need for Royster, he would be broken out. As far as he was aware, there were no hints of any break-ins or breakouts. They were safe, for the moment. Once satisfied with the gadget, he put the detector away, taking out another object, a small camera of some kind. He was planning on putting some of them around the tower, as the back was pointed out by Matthias to be quite a blind spot and a hazard. An easy way for a potential attacker to get in. So he wanted to account for that, to make sure both Green and Scar were as safe as possible. Impulse prodded the camera a little bit, checking it over to make sure all was as it should be. The first floor of the tower was pretty much done. His 2 friends working on the exterior and interior together, with some help. He had pitched in a little bit the day before by providing materials with skids to get them ready for the meat of the project. The hermit put away the camera, finally closing the box as he looked around the room, finding a few random scraps around, picking them up and putting them away in places that suited for the moment, unsure of what else to do. None of his friends were awake at the moment. He was fairly sure. It was pretty early in the morning, and he had wanted to get everything done. But now that everything he said he'd do was done, what more was there to do? He wasn't sure if the protectors would allow him to set up the cameras by himself. They'd probably recommend doing it themselves, just to be safe. Right now, Green and Scar weren't up yet to continue on building the tower. He went over to the window, putting his hand on the glass, feeling the coolness of the shade. The night had been pretty chilly, colder than normal around this time of year. Everything outside looked normal. Hermit noticing Matthias just barely at the entrance of the wall, patrolling anyone that might be coming in or going out. Impulse frowned as his thoughts began to wander. The broken pieces of the attack from weeks ago, maybe now a month. Remembering the purple void, trapped in a cage, unable to escape, with the looming threat overhead. His images and memories seemed to fade in and out of existence. What was real, and what wasn't? He wasn't sure. He knew bits and pieces of what happened thanks to Scar and Jem trying to help him out. But once they'd found skids and beat-ups, he hadn't really found much time to fully think about it. He shook his head. The fragrance of memory was fading in and out of focus, like a camera lens that was constantly autofocusing on the weirdest things. He closed his eyes, hoping the images and thoughts, the questions, would just go away. They never did go away. In fact, closing his eyes made it worse. As he sighed, seeing the dark gray eyes of a man moving over him, smelling the hint of coarse flour as it filled his nostrils. He heard voices, screams, cries for help. The eyes never left him, no. He could see a hint of brown specks in those gray eyes, almost like a signature. They seemed familiar, like he'd seen them before. His eyes filled him with dread as he forced himself to open his eyes, staring out into the tree line, forest beyond. The image soon faded, still leaving him with questions, still teasing him with answers he just couldn't reach. Chapter 2. Impulse watched a cluster of clouds float by a crisp blue sky, fluffy and long, like streaks of marks slashed across the sky. They pulled and stretched like a stain, glowing brighter and brighter, reflecting the light of the sun off their water vapor. His attention was redirected when he heard a faint buzzing in his pocket. It took him a moment to realize it was actually was calling him for a split second before pressing to let the call in. "You're up early, Tango," Impulse mused. "Hanging out of sleep last night," Tango admitted with a chuckle. "Good morning." "Morning. What are you doing that made you take up an all-nighter?" Impulse questioned. Tango paused. Silence on the other end drew longer than Impulse anticipated before he answered. "I've been doing a little research on the headband the other day. You know, the one that we made the chip for? Yeah, that came in quite handy." Impulse agreed. "Didn't you hand it over to Rose a couple of weeks ago?" "I did," Tango confirmed. "I've been looking at it a little more, and I realized there's a whole other setting we missed while testing." "Missed?" Impulse raised an eyebrow. "What did you mean by missed?" "I think it's better if I show you," Tango said in a serious tone. "I know your communicator is top security and has yet to be hacked, but this is something serious enough to see about." "Okay," Impulse said slowly, unsure what to make of this information. "You sure you don't want to talk about it with someone else first, if it's not serious? You're the one who has been through this thing 3 times now," Tango reported. "I just want to make sure it isn't bad. I tried it on a zombie, but it didn't seem to have any effect on him that I could see." "Where did you find this hidden feature?" Impulse pressed. "I should come by and see you," Tango insisted. "I know it sounds weird and out of nowhere, but it's important. I want to get to the bottom of this. If it means getting ahead of the game, then that's a win for us. If they think we don't know about this, we can surprise them." "You sure this isn't anything at all?" Bill asked cautiously. "That's the thing, buddy. I don't know." And Tango chuckled nervously. "But I have to know what it is. Even if it's nothing, I need to know that it's not going to be used to hurt anyone. Come over. We'll talk about it more when you arrive." Impulse nodded. It wouldn't hurt to check, especially since Gerald did say there were new features. "Exactly," Tango proclaimed. "It's just odd he never used them on either you or Grian." "Or Scar," Impulse pointed out. "Yeah," Tango replied. "I'll see you in 5? Like, now?" Impulse asked curiously. "Why not? We're both awake and ready to crack down on this," Tango stated confidently. "The sooner we deal with this, the better. It'll all be. Do you have a spare chip?" "I still have mine, yes," Impulse stated simply, reaching for his pocket instinctively when he said it. "Great! Then let's chat in a few," Tango said cheerfully, disconnecting the call as Impulse looked out into the woods outside the walls again. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. How bad could this thing Excuse me. Tango had found possibly be. Maybe it wasn't anything new after all. Maybe they were just overthinking things. That tended to happen when nothing was going on, when there was no one coming for them. Why would they even want? What did he even want? What would they even want anyway? Surely they didn't seem to care about a simple redstoner like him. If anything, there were far more dangerous people out there than himself. He was just doing everything he could to protect his friends. No one would be mad about that. No one could be mad about that, could they? Chapter 3. Impulse walked out of the workshop to immediately find Blake standing nonchalantly at the stairs, leaning against the wall casually, his legs crossed at the ankles, turning his head to face the hermit. "Morning, Blake," Impulse greeted with a smile. "How long have you been standing there?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Not very long," the boy shrugged. "Just wanted to make sure the door was guarded." "Nothing has happened in weeks, and you're already paranoid?" The hermit teased. "Not paranoid," the boy corrected. "Just cautious. Silence is never a good sign, especially from your enemies. It usually means they're planning something, and wanting us to lower our guard." "When have we lowered our guard?" Impulse looked down at the railing. Over the railing. "I've helped set up many security systems around this place, making it stronger and more of a nuisance to anyone who's unwelcome. All I've been thinking about is what's going to happen." Blake nodded. "I know. You're literally working nonstop. Barely having time to eat, sleep." The boy smiled knowingly. "How have you been feeling lately?" "I'm doing all right." Impulse stood straighter. "Tango has something he wants to talk to me about. Who's coming by in a few minutes?" A curious spark shone in the boy's eyes as he tilted his head. His eye or whatever. "What is it about?" Impulse hesitated for a moment before adding, "Tango might have found something we missed on our last testing of the headband." "Really?" Blake replied thoughtfully. "He hasn't been able to figure out what it is, but he wanted to show me to see if I could make any sense out of it." Impulse shrugged. It could honestly be nothing." "It could," Blake nodded. "I think Gerald had wanted to show me some new features on that thing before you showed up," Impulse replied. "Yet when I look at it, there was nothing new that I hadn't seen already." "You think he might have been bluffing?" Blake uncrossed his legs, pushing himself from the wall in order to stand. "Gerald? Bluffing about stuff like this?" Impulse raised an eyebrow. "He likes torturing people. It's possible he could have been bluffing. But the fact that Tango found something we hadn't noticed before is definitely odd." "Oh, this is pretty cool. What's this?" "Oh, it's basically fan fiction. Basically Hermitcraft, Clockwork Chronicles fan fiction. I first started this with Stampy and Squishy, the Lovely World and all that stuff, bringing in characters and storylines and all that, and then I branched out to Hermitcraft because, well, I had an idea and I wanted to do it. And, yeah, started as Season Clockwork and just grew over the last couple of years. I've been doing this since I started this channel. 2009. 2019. Yeah. Okay. He likes torturing people. It was possible he could have been bluffing, but the fact that Tinko found something we hadn't noticed before, definitely odd. Blake frowned. "Well, if you do find something, feel free to let us know." "Don't you worry, we will." Impulse smiled, hearing the sound of rockets outside. "Then we'll find a way to combat it, if there is anything. I'd rather be ahead a step or two from whoever this lead guy is, if I can." "True, if you think he's going to use the headband again," Blake pointed out. Impulse took down the stairs, holding onto the railing. "That's true, in case they do use it again. We'll be ready. I'm surprised no one found us yet before us." "Maybe they did, and it wasn't worth noting," Blake replied with a chuckle. "Yeah," Impulse nodded, making it down the stairs as the door opened. Tango walked inside, a serious expression on his face, his ruby red eyes glimmering in the sunlight. "Hey, buddy." Hey, Dingo managed a little smile. Tyler's helping with that as Kate and the cat outside. Think we can head upstairs so I can show you what I found? Sure. Impulse nodded. I'm going back toward the stairs, climbing them. Blake watched from above. How's it going, Blake? Tango asked politely to the boy once the two hermits arrived at the top of the stairs. Pretty good. The area is still relatively quiet. Blake nodded. How's your place? Secure and strong. No sign of creepy men in black anywhere. Tango juggled before straightening, going serious again. Sorry if I borrow Impulse for a bit while we figure something out. Of course. You two go ahead. I'm already keeping watch, the boy chuckled. Just be careful in there. I highly doubt there's anything dangerous in there. Tango shrugged, pulling out the headband from his pocket. Well, apart from potentially this. We'll be fine. They both smiled encouragingly. Blake nodded, letting them pass, though he didn't have much of a choice. Impulse walked into the workshop as Tango closed the door behind him, plopping the headband and controller on the table. This looks like a normal headband to me, Impulse frowned, picking up the device, holding it in his hands. The sleek black metal shone dully in the redstone lamplight as he examined it. Check the back. You can see a little switch, Tango pointed to where the hermit hadn't looked. The hermit turned the device, squinting as he looked closer. Sure enough, there was a small switch with 2 letters on each side. ID? Impulse frowned, squinting again. No, it's 2 separate letters, and to represent something. Tango insisted, just like the symbol that they like to throw around at us. Right, parts of their plan. Impulse nodded. Precisely. So I'm guessing this is something similar. The letter I might stand for something like interrogated, for example. Tango said simply. What does D stand for? Impulse noticed the switch and was pointing toward the second letter. That's what I want to figure out. Tango frowned, picking up the controller. Is it okay if you put it on? Put on a potentially dangerous headband in a setting we don't know about that could potentially kill me. Yeah, that seems like a great idea. Impulse chuckled nervously. You have the chip. It should work, Tango reminded him. Impulse pulled out the chip from his pocket, putting it on the table. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Impulse swallowed and clasping the headband, holding it in both hands. I know, but it's still scary. At least I knew it was going to happen. It's possible nothing will happen, Tango mused calmly. You could be totally fine. I'm not sure I want to try this gamble, Impulse admitted, putting on the headband anyway, feeling the cold metal clinging to his forehead. He heard the familiar click. Immediately the device started to hum. You didn't turn it on already, did you? No, I haven't turned the controller on. Tango frowned. Is it on? Yeah, the headband is on, Impulse confirmed, hesitating. Is it possible I'm watching it? Tango shrugged. I can't say for sure. Yeah, that something's happening. It's happening. What does it feel like? Just humming. Impulse replied slowly. And let's say humming. Like static. Try to connect to the controller. Tango nodded, turning on the device and adjusting the dial. Anything? Nothing. Impulse frowned. Weird. Tango shook his head. Can you remove the headband? Pretty sure it'll shock me if I do, Impulse said, reaching for the device, feeling something clasp tickle. His fingertips pulled away. What is it? Did it shock you? Tango's eyes looked alarmed. No. Impulse picked up the chip, putting it onto the headband, pressing down on it. The humming stopped. There. That turned it off. He removed the headband to prove it to his friend. Tango's frown deepening with confusion. He took the headband from the hermit, returning the chip. It's clearly not connected to anything. Impulse shook his head. Sorry, buddy. We tried. I gotta figure this out. Maybe we need another one? We do have one, right? Tango asked. Besides confiscated it. Excuse me. I don't know what he did with it. Impulse frowned. He certainly wouldn't let me keep it. Yes, we already had one. I'll have to ask him to see if that one is any different. Maybe they were just testing it and the setting didn't work on this one Gerald used on you. Tango piped up eagerly, going over to the door. Impulse smiled. Let me know if you get your hands on one again. Let's just hope the test doesn't try to kill us next time. Tango laughed. I'd feel really bad about that. Really. His smile faded. I just need to know what that thing does. I won't rest until I do. It has to be important. Does it? Impulse frowned as Tango opened the door. Tango nodded. Gerald said there was more to the headman. Even though he's a known liar, I have to make absolutely sure there is nothing else on there. Especially if it's a risk to my friends. Impulse nodded, crossing the room to put a hand on his friend's shoulder. We'll figure this out. Tango smiled, nodding. I know we will. If anything, I could see if someone like Etho, the doc, could crack it. Definitely, Impulse chuckled, looking out to see Blake watching them. Guessing it wasn't successful? The boy asked. Something happened, Impulse reported. We just don't know what happened. No one was hurt, thankfully. Tango lifted his chin. I got to get back to my base and prepare for today's events. Zedef wants me to help him with something, did I? Good luck with that, Impulse said, watching his friend smile, giving him a wave, wishing him well. Impulse leaned over the railing, looking down as Tango made it to the bottom of the stairs. He watched his friend leave, unable to shake the questions that swirled in his mind. Chapter 4. What are you looking at, Dibbledop? A voice said. The hermit yelped in surprise. Get it, Turning to see Skid standing on his bedroom door, watching him with his piercing blue eyes. The YouTuber grinned, showing his white teeth as he crossed the hall to meet up with him. Tango and I just finished experimenting, Paul said nonchalantly, looking down the hall. Everything was slowly starting to come to life as he noticed Green come out of his room, rubbing the sleepers from his eyes. Tell me all about it, Skid said eagerly, leaning against the railing next to him. Tango found something on the headband that we'd missed 2 weeks ago. Pulse looked down at the main room, now looking at the YouTuber. He wanted to see what it did, but we didn't find anything. Bummer. Skid sighed, shaking his head before nudging him playfully. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Yeah, Impulse chuckled. It's just a mystery. Just like everything else. Are you sure you're okay, Dibbledop? Skid asked calmly, his playful demeanor disappearing momentarily. I'm good. Impulse nodded, hearing a door open down the hall. A distant meow muffled by a wall. Okay, Skid replied, though he didn't seem satisfied with the hermit's answer. If there's anything you want to talk to me about, just hook me up, and I'll gladly give you an ear. And I do mean anything. I will, if it's important. Impulse began to hear voices from down the hall, finding the distraction he needed. Hey, Impulse! Scar's voice seemed to trail down the hall, almost like a sing-song. Do you have any redstone ready? No. Do you have the redstone ready for the tower? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. Impulse stepped into the workshop again, grabbing the box he'd left behind, storing it in his pocket. It's right here. We could really use your help hooking that up while working on the next floor. Scar said happily as Gran passed him, heading down the stairs. That way we don't have to worry about any potential surprise attacks. Do you think that might happen? Impulse raised a curious eyebrow. Scar shrugged. It never hurts. Saves time as well, which means you'd have to do less on the next floors because most of the guys don't have wings. They have intervals, Impulse reminded him before smiling, starting to walk down the stairs. I'll do the same on each floor to make sure it's even. That way we know if there's a problem. Skiz, do you want to start working on the tunnel system downstairs for me? We need to have the tower hooked up to the girls' bases in case there is trouble and they need to get here fast. Of course, Skiz said quickly, following the hermits down the stairs. Impulse made it to the bottom, hearing voices upstairs as he looked up. Caleb and Blake were still on top of the stairs, conversing quickly with one another. It only took a moment, however, before they too arrived downstairs. What were you two talking about? Impulse mused at the two of them curiously. I filled Caleb in what you've been up to. The other boy shrugged. It's as I'll probably do with Matthias if Tango hasn't done it for me. Tango was here? Scar asked curiously by the door. He looked up at the group. He looked back at the group. Only for a short while. He wanted to talk to me about something. Impulse shrugged. I wouldn't worry about it. Okay. Scar smiled, skipping off after Green and his kids, who were already halfway to the tower. I'm going to stay in here to keep Jim company, Caleb pointed out calmly, looking over at Blake. You're good with the rest? I should be, but I doubt we'll be alone for long, Blake mused. No doubt Jim will want to help others with the tower. I'll see you soon, Caleb replied, as Blake gently pushed Impulse out the door. So it's still safe to be out and open like this? Impulse questioned Boy. Blake shrugged. I haven't heard anything stating otherwise, have you? Besides, we'd see them coming. Not always. Impulse bit its bottom lip, heading toward the tower, Skids waving him from a distance. True. But we should be okay, the boy assured him. Appreciate you waiting for me, though. Honestly, I don't want to be out there alone, with a chance those men might be out there. Impulse frowned, nearing the start of the tower. It didn't look terribly tall from where he stood, as only the first floor was up, only taller than him by a few feet. We don't know what this guy wants, or who he might go after. Blake nodded, patting the hermit on the shoulder. I'm sure whatever it may happen, we can deal with it. Impulse smiled, making it to the door as he opened it, stepping into the room, seeing Skids breaking open the floor by a dark oak spiral. Stargate. Continuing now? Impulse asked curiously. Why not? We can use trapdoors to hide it, so no one would know, and trap it whenever it's not in use. That way, if any man or beast finds it, our friends will be safe. Skids looked up at the hermit beaming. I'll have to get to it after I get this done, then. Impulse mused, putting his redstone box in the corner of the room. Let me know when it's finished. You got it, buddy. Skids cheered triumphantly, continuing his work as Impulse pulled out an invisibility detector, any trace of concern on his mind fading as he focused on the task ahead. Chapter 5. Impulse climbed up the stairs toward the room after a long day of work. He'd helped finish up the first floor with security, helped Skids decorate and secure the tunnel system he'd created, and started work on the second floor of the tower. It had taken all of his energy as he trudged up the stairs, stifling a yawn as he reached the top. The sun had already set about an hour earlier as the hermit passed his workshop, peeking in through the open door, seeing the starlit sky through the unblinded window. He walked over to it, covering the window with a black curtain, filling the room in darkness as a shudder ran through his spine. Something about the darkness of the room unnerved him, but he wasn't sure why. He shook the thought out of his mind as he had left the room, closing the door behind him. The hallway was empty as Impulse made it to his room, pushing the door open, which faced the tower. The shadow was barely visible through the curtained window. Impulse turned, looking over his shoulder, spotting Blake and Skids completing their ascent up the stairs, though talking between each other. Impulse smiled, glad to see the two of them. Everything was fine. He was safe. But why was he so anxious anyway? He gave the two of them a wave. Skids' face brightened when he saw him, breaking out into a run as he quickly crossed the hall to meet him at the bedroom door. Tired already? Skids teased him, looking into his room as he welcomed himself in. Impulse did the same, turning on the lamplight, the room filled with reddish-brown. Yeah, it's been a long day, Impulse said, heading over to his bed, sitting down. He could see Blake standing at the door, watching the two of them quietly. Has, you barely had time to yourself. Skids chuckled, scooting close to the hermit. What's bothering you, buddy? Why do you assume something is bothering me? Impulse tilted his head. You don't normally go all out and go all in unless something is bothering you. You're distracting yourself from something. Skids wrapped an arm around Impulse's shoulders. I'm fine, Impulse insisted. Skid shook his head. No, you're not. I can see it in your face. You're nervous. What's up? Impulse swallowed. It's nothing. Well, it's clearly bothering you, so it can't be nothing. Skid pressed playfully. Come on, you can trust me. Impulse sighed. I guess the silence is just getting on my nerves, okay? We don't know anything about this new head of Mr. A's original team. We don't know what's happening. All we know is that this guy wanted to create a virus that was wiped out within weeks of his discovery. Impulse shook his head. And that Royster works for him. Skid huffed. Royster, he seems to know everything. Yeah, but he won't spill. He won't tell us anything, Impulse insisted. Surely he knows where we are. It's no secret. So what does he want from us? I don't know, Skid shrugged. Maybe to mess with us and try to keep us guessing? About what? Something has got to give sometime soon. He can't be quiet forever. Impulse shuddered. I just can't shake this bad feeling, Skid. This feeling that something's going to happen. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So I spend every moment I can to try to make sure we're prepared. In case they do come after us. Impulse looked at his feet. What if they aren't even after us? What if they just forgotten us? What if we're overthinking this all? Overthinking this? Buddy! Skid smiled lightly. Beatles, me, and Scar were tortured with some sort of virus. Grian was threatened by Royster, no less. We have every reason to be afraid. And just as many to stick together as a team. He pulled the hermit into a side hug. Royster's paying for his time right now, as he rightly deserves, for what he did. He can't hurt anyone. And whoever this guy is won't hurt us either. We're stronger than him. He got tougher. Phil swallowed. You sure? No, Skid admitted sheepishly. But I don't want my body to be stressing out so much. It's okay to relax a little. Just more often. Impulse admitted sadly, resting his head on his friend's shoulder. I missed hanging out with you. I miss it too. It's hard to watch my body go around trying to protect everyone and take care of everyone, yet never have time to just have time for himself. Skid smiled gently. You've done a lot already. I just want to be with you right now. Looking up at the stars and trying to count them all. Impulse chuckled. I told you it's impossible. Don't say that. Of course it is. Skid grinned, pulling away. But I need you, buddy. You need me. It's partly why I haven't gone back home yet. Impulse swallowed. I thought it was because they were having trouble finding replacements for you. Not too, Skid nodded with his eyes still fixed on him. I don't want you to feel like you're doing this alone. I want to be there for you, no matter what. I've lost too many years. I want to earn them back any way I can. Tears sprung into the hermit's eyes. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Dibbled Up. You did nothing wrong, Skid assured him. You're a great leader, and a hero in your own right. Far more than I could ever do. Let me rescue you, for once. But you have, Impulse pressed. I'm not talking in a literal sense here. Skid held up a hand. He reached out and put that hand on the hermit's chest. I'm talking here. I know you better than anyone. And when I know my buddy is struggling, I want to help. Impulse nodded, looking at the door. Seeing Blake still standing at by the door, he hadn't moved all that much. The boy smiled encouragingly. Because I'm a terrible liar. Impulse let out of his eye. Oh yeah, Skid laughed, nudging him again. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I can just easily tell when you need a buddy to talk to. Impulse nodded, looking over at the YouTuber. You ever feel like you're missing something, but can't figure out what it is? Like something important, but you just can't put your finger on it? Skid shrugged. I can't say I have. Let's count trying to find you. Impulse smiled weakly. I've been having weird dreams lately. Sort of like flashbacks or echoes of what happened that day when Pearl beat up Bubbles and I were attacked. He swallowed and continued. Ever since I was cured of that infection, I've never gotten a clear picture of what happened. It bugs me. It feels important somehow, and I just don't know why. The virus was destroyed, both of them, Blake assured him calmly. Pills agreed. But it's not that. The dreams don't make any sense. Like I feel trapped, seeing a pair of eyes looking back at me. Whose? Skid asked curiously. Pills shook his head. I don't know. They seem familiar, but I can't put the pieces together. What do you remember about what happened? Skid's breast, putting a hand on his friend's shoulder. Impulse sighed. I've already told you guys everything I remembered. We were ambushed. Beat-Up's escort tried to buy us time, but it wasn't enough. I tried to get Beat-Up somewhere safe, but we were discovered. Someone targeted me and attacked me, and last thing I remember was the chorus flower and screaming. I was scared something had happened to Beat-Ups, that they were hurting him, and the next thing I knew, I was trapped in a cage over a void, hearing voices. Gem, Beat-Ups, and yours. He looked at his feet again. It's like that infection unlocked something in me that allowed me to hear you, but not see you or talk to you. Tears stung in the hermit's eyes as he wiped them away. He felt a lump in his throat as he tried to piece together what happened. But the pieces seemed all disjointed and disconnected. Skids finally spoke after a long moment. Well, if you ever have that dream again, tell me, okay? I want to know. Impulse nodded. I just can't stop seeing those eyes. Feeling terrified, like I couldn't get away. Trapped, just like that awful cage. Whoever it was can't hurt you now, Skids assured him gently. I've got your back. I'm not letting any jerk get to my buddy. Neither am I. And Blake cut in, finally speaking. I'm sure it'll come to you eventually. It's time. But in the meantime, we're both here to listen if you need it. Both smiled and nodded. I know. I just don't think it was that important. At least not until I had anything worth sharing. Could you maybe describe the eyes? Skid suggested. They were dark gray, brown. I don't know. Impulse sighed. They had dark brown splotches that almost blended into the eyes. Okay. Skid nodded, looking over at Blake, who shrugged. He turned back to the hermit, getting to his feet. Why don't you get some sleep, and I'll check in with you tomorrow to see how well you're doing. Thanks. Impulse said again, smiling as he got up, giving him a hug. Skids returned the embrace before pulling away moments later. Nice kiss. Good night, double tap. Skids grinned happily, walking out of the room. Blake stepped out of the way so he could pass. The YouTuber stopped in the hallway before glancing back. I won't be far if you need me. Remember that. I will, Impulse replied, watching the YouTuber disappear from sight. Blake smiled at the door, grabbing for it. You'll be okay in here? Or do you want me to keep you company? The boy offered. I should be okay. Impulse smiled at the boy. Thanks for everything. You're my friend. Blake nodded simply. Skids was worried about you, you know. I figured I don't really hide things very well. Impulse chuckled. Good night, Blake. Sweet dreams, Impulse. The boy encouraged, closing the door, leaving a little crack, just in case. Impulse climbed into the bed, cocooning himself inside the blankets as he took a slow, deep breath, trying to relax. Skids was right. He'd barely given time for himself, so consumed by ensuring everyone else was safe. Part of it was out of fear. Part of it was out of necessity. What mattered right now was that they were ready now. He had no reason to worry. If and when those men did show up, they wouldn't stand a chance. That he was certain. Keep going. What? Chapter 6. Impulse could hear a scream from behind him, a familiar scream as his heart skipped a beat, whirling around in the hallway. Beat-Ups! The hermit broke into a run, charging down the hall. He saw 3 men just ahead, one of them dragging Beat-Ups right behind the others. The hermit was struggling, calling out to him for help. Impulse ran faster, blinking a moment later to find himself shutting the contraption of a hidden closet, hearing his friend's panicked breathing right next to him. Pearl's still back there, Beat-Ups admitted worriedly, looking back over at him, his gray eyes wide with fear. I'm sure she's fine. She can handle herself, Impulse reassured him, feeling an uneasy dread fill up, hearing footsteps coming down the hall. Do you think they saw us go in? Beat-Ups asked nervously. I don't think so, Impulse frowned, hearing the footsteps grow louder before they stopped. Are you sure you saw them go this way? A voice grunted from another voice replied. Something crawled down the hermit's spine, filling his body with dread. "We need to get out of here," Impulse whispered to B-Dubs, pulling him away from the door. The door began to heave. "How? There's no other way out," B-Dubs insisted, looking around the empty room. "We make our way out," Impulse said firmly. "Bubbles, start making a tunnel. I'll try to hold it back." "By yourself?" B-Dub's eyes widened with horror. "You can't possibly. What choice do we have? They're clearly after you," Impulse snapped, turning to face the hermit as the men heaved at the door again before it opened a crack. "Here you are," the third voice shouted. "B-Dubs, go!" Impulse insisted, running to the door, attempting to close it shut behind him. Falling backward as the door swung open. "Impulse!" B-Dubs gasped as the hermit sat up. Seeing one of the men charging toward the hermit, Impulse scrambled to his feet, attempting to rescue his friend, when someone knocked him from the side, both of them falling to the floor. "It's been a long time. It's good to see you again," a familiar voice said from above him. Impulse managed to kick the man off him, and the man lunged at him again. The hermit screamed, feeling a sharp pain cut through his body. Hearing his friend's cries, his mouth and nose were covered by a cloth. "I'm going to enjoy this." The last thing the hermit remembered was the pair of dark gray eyes before his eyes snapped open, sitting up in bed, panting in shock. It took him a moment to realize that it all had been a dream, a nightmare. He could feel himself shaking as he put his head in his hands, trying to fight back the tears stinging in his eyes. The dream had seemed clearer now, but he still couldn't place where he'd heard that voice from. Who the man was. He didn't recognize him, and yet he did. The man knew who he was. A shudder ran through his spine. No, it can't be. It can't possibly be him. He was locked up in a cell far away from him, where he couldn't hurt anyone. It couldn't be him. It makes sense. "Blake!" Impulse choked out aloud, putting his hand down on the door as the door opened. The boy was immediate to attention, concerning his eyes. "What is it?" the boy asked, reading his facial expression. Bolt swallowed, the tears still threatening to fall. "It's a dream. It happened again." The hermit swallowed as the boy walked into the room. I heard him. I heard his voice." "Who was it?" Blake asked, walking over to the bed, rubbing the hermit's back gently as Impulse sniffed. "You're not going to believe me," the hermit admitted. "Try me," the boy stated firmly, kneeling next to him. "What did you see?" "Who did you see?" Impulse wasn't able to meet his eyes. He couldn't look at him. He could feel the eyes looking at him, watching him. A tear fell down the hermit's face. "Do you know if your cousin never got out?" "Of course he didn't," Blake insisted. "He can't have. I was told by General Cody he wouldn't let him out." A lump formed in the hermit's throat. "Could you check, just to make sure?" "I can," Blake nodded, still rubbing the hermit's back. "Maybe your mind got confused?" Bull shook his head. "No, it was him. He was there." Blake bit his bottom lip, looking nervously as he got to his feet. I'll call Cody and see if he can confirm anything." Bulls nodded, pulling his legs up to his chest, staring up toward the window. "It has to be him." Blake didn't say anything as he walked out of the room, leaving the door open as the boy punched some coordinates. Impulse waited in silence, unease filling. What? Unease filling him, his eyes going over to the corner of the room where there was darkness. There was nothing there. No one was there. He took a slow, deep breath, hearing Blake's voice down the hallway. He couldn't hear what the boy was saying, but knowing that he was there reassured him. He was alone. The man wasn't here. He couldn't be here. A few moments later, Impulse heard footsteps approaching as he looked back, seeing a stone expression on the boy's face that made him shudder. "Cody told me there was a break-in a month ago," Blake said sourly. "Only one of the prisoners escaped." A sickening feeling filled him. "Why?" "I don't know," the boy frowned. "What baffles me is why he didn't tell me this right away." Impulse nodded. "So I wasn't making it up." "Maybe not," Blake replied, shaking his head, walking into the room. "I need to tell Matthias this. Do you think he'll be able to stay here?" "I don't really feel safe being alone right now," the hermit admitted quietly. Blake nodded, understanding, As he went over to his chest, pulling out a foldable chair, he laid it out next to the bed. The boy sat next to him, smiled gently. "It's all right if I call him on the communicator then?" Pulse nodded. I could go to Skiz's room." "You could, but then you'd both be alone up here," the boy replied. "Be alone," Impulse admitted. "Are you okay?" Blake asked him calmly. "I will be," Impulse replied. I just don't know why." "What is this guy planning? Is your cousin a part of this?" Blake shrugged, looking over at the window. "Would it feel better if I gave him a name? Things are less terrifying when you have a name for them." Impulse bit his bottom lip. "I'm not sure why you never shared it earlier." "Well, it's still bitter," Blake said sourly, looking over at the hermit. "What he did to you. His father did." Impulse frowned. "What did he do?" Blake shook his head. "His father, my uncle, betrayed us, gave us up in order to save his own skin, to protect his son. But more himself." The boy clenched his jaw. "His name is Stephen Royster. His son, Julius." Chapter 7. "What?" Impulse gasped, eyes widening at what the boy just said. Blake nodded. "Yeah, the same scientist who charged with beat up Scar and his kids. It's red and green. He's my uncle." The boy, his expression looked sour again, avoiding Hermit's eyes. "I never thought I'd hear that name again until our friends, mentioned him. He was a smart man. Brilliant, actually. A man of science and principle. He loved his work, his experiments and testing. His son, Julius, was also a bright kid, just like his father. They had everything in their future. Stephen had a great job, a family, and Julius went to a small school, the top of his class. Something changed. My mother saw it first. Stephen was her brother, and she used to be close to him up until she met my father. He despised my father, absolutely hated the man, and wanted nothing to do with him. I was too young to know why, just know my uncle hated him. He allowed Julius to hang out with me, away from the house, though. One day, Royster just snapped. I don't know what happened," Blake admitted, "but he secluded himself from everyone for weeks on end, confining himself to his lab, away from his son. My father heard about what was happening from me and demanded Julius stay with us until Stephen could pull himself back together. He didn't like this in the slightest, accusing my father that he was taking everything from him, that Julius was the last thing he had to an actual family." Tears formed in the boy's eyes. The boy wiped them away with his sleeve. My mother heard every word and was incredibly upset. My father was enraged, saying that Royster was being delusional and neglecting his son, and that all he was doing was trying to protect him. We didn't hear from Royster for a few days, until Mr. Esmond showed up, demanding to know where the YouTubers were. They took my parents, and they took Julius. I never saw any of them again, apart from Julius when he showed up at the school. A lump formed in the hermit's throat. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Blake shook his head. "None of it was your fault. I should have been more upfront with you about it. Rose must have known about the whole thing. When I asked her about what had happened, whether or not the family the men were after was mine, she told me that it was." "Oh," Bull said quietly. "So your father was one of us?" Blake smiled sadly. "Guessing so. Why else would Royster hate him so much? He knew. He knew all along and told on us. Told on him. All my dad wanted was a happy life, where he didn't have to worry or fear about his family's safety. So, fortunately, that was ruined by one man. One man who couldn't care less about what happened to him. He didn't care less about me. Or his sister." He pulled back the covers of the bed and got up, coming over to give the boy a hug. "It really stinks." Blake nodded, welcoming the embrace, tightening his grip. A part of Impulse didn't want to let the boy go. Didn't want him to have to face the reality that the boy's cousin was out there, somewhere. The same man who would try to hurt Impulse and his friend. What would the others think about this news? How long had Blake known about this? There were far more questions than there were answers. In all honesty, I was getting tired of it. Feeling any better after that? Blake asked, finally pulling away from the hermit, still in the boy's eyes. He wiped them away, hiding his face behind a hand. Impulse sat back down onto the bed, feeling a mattress bounce gently against his weight. A bit. Impulse nodded, looking up at the boy. Feeling better. Try to get some sleep. The boy pulled out his communicator again. I need to make a call to Matthias, though. Try not to worry about that. I'll be here when you wake up. At least for tonight. Impulse chuckled. That'd be great. Dark rooms still make me a bit nervous. I won't let anything happen to you. You're safe with me. Blake nodded as the hermit climbed the rest of the way back to bed. It means a lot. More than you know. The hermit smiled, pulling up the covers as he turned his back on the boy, hearing the boys quietly talking into the device for a moment before leaving the room. It wasn't fun, though. Impulse knew that. She wasn't alone. Nothing bad would happen. He was safe. That was enough. Chapter 8. Impulse woke up to someone shaking him awake as he groaned. He felt a hand on his shoulder, attempting to brush it away as he heard a giggle. Come on, Dibbletop, I know you want to, Skid's voice said brightly. Impulse opened his eyes, looking over his shoulder at his friend. The hermit smiled, seeing his friend looming over him with the widest grin. Get up, buddy. Don't think I forgot. Blake didn't tell you? The hermit asked sleepily, sitting up in bed as he wiped the sleep from his eyes. Tell me what? All he told me was that he had some things he needed to do. The YouTuber paused for a moment. It doesn't have to do with anything that happened. Does it? Impulse swallowed. It always does, it seems. Skid let out an exasperated sigh. Tell me, buddy, what's up? How did you sleep? Honestly? Better than I thought. Impulse pushed back the covers, swinging his legs over to make room for his friend, who immediately fell down. I only had a nightmare once. Whoa, Skid smiled hopefully. Did it ever make sense? Impulse looked at the floor. Do you remember that time I went missing and you came over to help look for me, only to find me at Jem's place? Yeah, Skid nodded. Blake was worried about you majorly. Impulse bit his bottom lip. Blake knew who the attacker was. Skid tense, putting his hand on the hermit's shoulder. Same guy who attacked you and Grian later? Impulse nodded. Same guy we locked behind bars. He didn't get out. He got out? More than a month ago, right before Pearl, Beat-Ups, and I were attacked. Impulse fiddled with his fingers nervously. His name is Julius Royster. Stephen's son. Wait, he's related to him? Skid gasped, shocked but erratic. Actually, that kind of lines up. Like father, like son. Both jerks. Impulse chuckled. Yeah, both absolute jerks. Well, Julius came there the first time for Mr. A to kill me, but then the second time to capture me. A lump formed in his throat, and he added, now he's following some other guy, and the man sent him with a few others to fetch Beat-Ups. Julius was the one who attacked me. He did that to you? Skid asked slowly, glancing out the window. As you said, a total jerk. Impulse nodded. And how does Blake know them? Did he have a run-in before we met him, or... Skid looked back at the hermit. It's worse than you think. Impulse swallowed. Royster is Blake's uncle, the one who betrayed his family and sent his parents to their deaths. You were right, it is worse, Skid said sourly. You can't do that to people like that. Impulse could hear the anger in the YouTuber's voice. As worse as that, his father was probably one of us. A YouTuber. Royster knew it too, and destroyed Blake's life all because he hated him. If I ever see him again... Skid groaned out loud, shaking his head, glaring out the window. It's fitting how it all comes back full circle. Mm-hmm, Impulse nodded, looking down at the floor, counting the wooden boards in his head. There's a very good chance he might come back. He's not getting to you, Skid said defiantly. Besides, Royster can't hurt anyone behind the bars. Thing is, that's what Blake is checking, to make sure he's actually behind bars, Impulse swallowed. He better be, Skid seized. Otherwise, we're going to have a nice chat. Impulse managed a weak smile, looking up at his friend. It's honestly not fair how many people have to suffer in order for change to finally happen. We're part of that change, and we'll make it happen, Skid said firmly, getting to his feet. We've already stopped them once, captured their leaders, and forced them to scramble. We'll just do it again. We need them to know that attacking us won't solve their problems. You really think that'll work? Impulse asked, standing up at the wall. Why not? Skid smiled encouragingly. Too many people are caught in the crossfire. It's time someone actually cared. It's cost us, Impulse pointed out. Brothers in our teams have been working hard to protect everyone, kids and adults alike, regardless of their status. Skids beamed. I like the sound of that, but it's not enough. It never is. But it starts somewhere, Impulse replied, glancing out the window for a moment before he heard footsteps pounding up the stairs. Impulse! Blake's voice called down the hall, appearing in the doorway moments later. The boy was out of breath, his eyes wide with alarm. You need to come downstairs. Tango. What? Did something happen? Impulse asked quickly, dread filling him as he reached within himself, still feeling a hint of something. Tango's base was attacked earlier this morning. Blake looked serious. I think he was Julius. Did he? Is he? Impulse swallowed. He's critically injured but stable. Tyler came by the gate a few minutes ago, Blake reported. The boy wasn't able to get another word as the hermit pushed him aside. Skid right behind him as he tore towards the stairs, glancing over the railing as he felt his legs almost gave way. Tango! The hermit managed, running down the stairs as he went into the main room, finding Tango lying on his back on the couch, his face looking pale against the sunlight, which made the burns he could see seeping through the towel over the hermit's chest. There were some cuts, as if some blade of some kind. Looks like a fire aspect. Skid observed with a frown. Certainly, Tyler nodded. I was checking the perimeter this morning when I heard Tango scream from his workshop. I found the window open up there and flew in. What is all? Let's just say it wasn't pretty. Impulse stifled a sob as he fell to his knees in front of the couch, reaching for his friend's hand. Skids fell right beside him. His tears stung in the hermit's eyes. Why? Impulse whispered quietly, shaking his head as Skids wrapped an arm around him. You'll be okay? Skids asked quickly, looking up at the man. Tyler nodded solemnly. Yes, he should be fine within a few days. The man disappeared out of the workshop at the door as soon as he saw me. He hesitated before pulling something out of his pocket. He dropped this. Impulse looked up, taking a moment before realizing the man was offering him a folded piece of paper out to him. Impulse's hand shook as he took the paper, releasing his friend's limp hand as he unfolded it, his face draining color. Whoever this guy is really wants to get to your attention. Skid said bitterly, looking over his shoulder at the clock symbol. The letter C was circled with some words under it. You're next. Why? Impulse asked again, desperately hoping for an answer. Anything. None of this made any sense. What was happening? What was he missing? He didn't hear the footsteps at the stairwell until he heard a startled gasp. What happened? A small voice asked. The hermit looked up to see Jem watching them from the stairs as she completed her descent. Basically, Royster's son decided to rear his ugly face. Skid said sourly. Royster's? Jem asked, confused. Blake's cousin, Julius, explained quietly, looking over to the sleeping form of his friend. Wait, they're related? Jem sounded concerned. I only learned last night. Impulse bit his bottom lip. He's been out free for about a month. He was the man who also helped capture B-Dubs and her Impulse, Skid said, straightening as he looked over at Jem. Oh, Jem said quietly, looking over to join the duel. He'll be okay? Yeah, in a few days, Skid said calmly. Though Impulse knew very well that you'd with anything but calm. I wanted to know why, just as much as you do, buddy. We should take him upstairs, Jem replied simply, looking over at Tyler. The protector nodded, not saying any more, as he walked out of the room and into the kitchen. Skids, can you help me? Of course. Skids got to his feet. Impulse did the same, unable to leave his eyes off his friend. Some color was starting to return to his face, and another lump formed in his throat. Skids bit down, gently lifting the unconscious hermit off the couch, carrying him toward the stairs. Jem followed not too far behind. Impulse just stood there, unable to move, as he looked down at the paper, the two words echoing in his mind. Dread filled the hermit, and he looked out the window, seeing the wall obscure his view. There was nothing out there. No sign that anyone was watching him. Yet he couldn't help but feel like he was being watched, like he wasn't alone in his room, even though he knew people were nearby. He shook his head, going for the front door as he opened it, walking over to the tower, just about seeing Scar and Green working on the beginnings of the third floor. He spotted Kaden standing at the door, giving her doorman a mildly cheerful smile. "Looking out on your own?" They asked her gently. "I need to do something," Impulse told him matter-of-factly, opening the door as he walked inside, grabbing Cora's stone box, nearing the spiral staircase. He knew what he needed to do. Besides, it wouldn't be long. He just needed to get away from the fear and dread that was threatening to consume him, away from the man who had recently hurt one of his friends, and was now threatening him. This couldn't be real. This had to be a dream. A really bad dream. This really couldn't be happening, yet deep down he knew that it would indeed happen. A chill ran through his spine as he arrived at the second floor, the sense of someone watching him creeping back and taunting him. He ignored it, getting to work without another word. He had a job to do, and the sooner he got it done, the safer everyone would be. He wouldn't let something like this happen again. He wouldn't. Yeah. Chapter 9. Double-Top, are you up here? Skiz's voice trailed up from below at the first floor about 5 minutes. On the first floor, about 5 minutes later, he could hear footsteps climbing up the stairs, and Impulse looked up. "There you are, buddy. How's he doing?" Impulse asked quietly, securing the second invisibility detector to the wall. "He's sleeping well," Skiz said, glancing out the window that opened out to a balcony. It wasn't a large balcony, but it was big enough to land on with a pair of wings. He looked back at the hermit. "You shouldn't run off like that, Impulse. I was worried something might have happened to you." "I'm fine, see?" Impulse shrugged, getting to his feet as he went to the box. "What you up to?" Skiz asked, crossing the room to lean over to get a better look. "Trying to set up the second floor, since this has a balcony. I want to add a few cameras with motion sensors. I can see if I can hook them up onto one of the college members' devices so that they can be alerted by any potential danger. So this will only turn on at night. Skiz nodded. "She's doing it again." On both sides. "I mean, it doesn't help that Julia's attacked one of my best friends. For me next." "He's not taking you," Skiz said confidently, grabbing his friend by the shoulders, stopping him from walking away from him. Impulse looked up, meeting his friend's eyes, seeing a hint of something he barely ever saw in them. "I'm not letting him take you." A lip formed in the hermit's throat as he looked away, pulling himself away from his friend, going to the third side of the room, kneeling so he can get a better angle. "I don't think you can promise that, Skiz." "I'm going to try," Skiz insisted. "He can't take you. He won't. He's not taking or hurting anybody." Impulse bit his bottom lip, still facing away from his friend as he secured the third detector, making sure it was turned on. "There, that's this room covered for invisibility." "I'm serious, Impulse," Skiz said matter-of-factly. "I know you are," Impulse sighed, looking toward the spiral staircase quickly. He assumed Scar and Green were still upstairs working on the next floor. It's just Julius works fast and hard. He can surprise you at any time, lying in wait for his victim. He's patient, but fierce. I've done everything I could to combat that, adding invisibility detectors, cameras, alarm systems, and yet still, with all that, he manages to get in. He manages to find a weak spot and exploit it. Take his base as one of the most secure out there next to Doc and Mumbo. How did he get in there? "I don't know, buddy. I really don't know." Skiz admitted it. Impulse grabbed a camera from the box, going over to the balcony, reaching up to the door, carefully securing the device. "Why does this guy want to see you anyway?" Impulse swallowed, shaking his head. "I don't want to think about it." He stepped away from the camera after turning it on, looking at it for a moment. It looked secure, though he wished he could be a little bit more hidden. "I'm not going to let you have a chance to be alone if that's the case," Skiz said defiantly. "I'm not letting him take you without a fight. Kids, please." Impulse shook his head. "He could seriously hurt you or Double-Top." "I'm not scared of him," the YouTuber said defiantly. "I don't care if it kills me, dude. I'm not letting him hurt you. I don't want him to kill anybody, Impulse insisted, going away from the window as he opened one of the two doors, opening into a bedroom. I still have a couple detectors. I forgot about these. He's not going to, Skid said confidently. I'm here to protect my buddy. Impulse ignored him, grabbing a few more detectors as he stepped into one of the small bedrooms. It was big enough to walk around in with a bed, crafting table, and chest. There wasn't a lot in either room, but he noted one detector was enough to cover the whole room. Had the two hermits accounted for that? When building this, he put a second one hidden away just in case. He did the same to the other room. I'm not even sure why you're being so extra cautious, Impulse. Julius doesn't say who's coming for Green or Scar, Skid pointed out. Whoever this guy is might in the future, Impulse retorted. I'm not taking any chances. You sure you don't want to sit down and talk about it? Skid offered the couch that was sitting in the corner of the room. It was a crimson couch with velvet fabric. It was big enough to see both of them. I don't want to talk about it. There's no time, Impulse swallowed. Need to prepare. Impulse, Skid said firmly, walking over to him, wrapping an arm around his shoulder, taking him to the couch. Sit down. But, Impulse argued. Sit, Skid said determinedly. Impulse reluctantly sat down. Skid's plopping beside him, pausing the couch a little. Tell me what's going on, buddy. Fine, Impulse insisted. You're not, and you and I both know it. Skid shook his head. You're scared of something. Not scared. Just want to be prepared, Impulse said simply. You are, Skid said calmly. That man hurt Tango, and now you're going crazy trying to prepare for something that might not even be in your control. You don't know what Julius is going to do, where he's going to show up, or whatever. You can't control every variable. That's okay, but no one should be running around with their heads cut off like that. You deserve better, Dippled. For all we know, you could already be here. Wilson looked down at the floor, unable to shake the feeling he was being watched as he looked up at the stairs. Upstairs had gone weirdly quiet all of a sudden. Are you guys listening up there? No, definitely not, Scar giggled from up the stairs, coming down, Brian stumbling right after. We just didn't want to interrupt a wholesome moment here. I wouldn't call it wholesome, Impulse admitted. What's going on? Is a guy called Julius attacking our friends and not threatening it? Green asked Riley. I've had it before. Impulse looked up at his friend. Huh? Green's features were still. He attacked you when you were visiting Scar that one time. You came to Jump Space for help, Impulse reminded him. Oh, right. With Impulse. That's what we're trying to figure out, Skid frowned, wrapping an arm around Impulse's shoulders. I just want him to know he's not doing this alone. I know I'm not. I just don't want more people to get hurt. Impulse admitted. Maybe I should let him take me. No, Skid snapped. Not happening. Impulse nodded. It's only a matter of time before he shows up looking for me. You can't be by my side all the time. Sure I can. Skid lifted his chin. Aw, this is cute. Skid mused with a smile. You're both scared of losing each other. Why wouldn't I be? Skid stated confidently. I've lost years of time with my buddy. I can't lose him again after finding him. I don't want to lose anyone, Impulse agreed. As Skid pulled him into a side hug. He's not going to hurt anyone, Skid said gently. The cause's job is to protect us, and I know they'll do their best to do that. We're in one of the safest fortresses in the world. Be fine. Impulse shook his head. You can't guarantee anything, dude. Just nobody. If he does take you, and that's a big if, by the way, we'll come for you. We'll find you, and we'll take him down, Skid said defiantly. You won't stand a chance. Agreed, Green smiled. We're a team. We do this together. Impulse smiled. Thanks, guys. Anything for my buddy. Skids pulled away. If you need anything, just give me a call and I got you. That's what best buddies do, are for. Impulse's smile grew wilder. His uneasy feeling was finally fading for a moment. He wasn't sure what it was, but perhaps it was peace. He'd be fine, no matter what happened. He knew he had friends he could count on. Nothing could change that. Nothing would change that. Chapter 10. You probably have one or two more chapters to go through. I'd say 2 more. Let's say that. 2 more chapters and then we're done. Chapter 10. The sun was beginning to set as Impulse left the tower, hearing Skid not far behind him, greeting Caden, who was still by the door. Impulse could see Isaac and Caleb rounding a corner of the wall, looking out into the midst of conversation. Hermit wasn't able to hear what they were saying, but that didn't matter. Just seeing them keeping a lookout eased the itching nerves within him. He no longer felt like someone was watching him now, as he approached the front door. Going to check on Tango and see how he's doing, Impulse told him simply. Let me go with you, Skid insisted. As your portable bodyguard. Impulse chuckled. Pretty sure that's Blake's job. Why, you can't have 2 protectors? Skid grinned, nudging him before reaching to the door for the doorknob, opening the door for him. Scar has 2 after all. Technically, so does Grant, Impulse reminded him, thinking about the newest member of their group, Isaac, who had helped them capture Mr. A and Gerald, and rescue both Grant and Scar in the process. The boy had been forced to join Mr. A's ranks when he'd been pulled from Rose's school by his parents. Mr. A had them killed once the boy was under his control, unbeknownst to him, as well as anyone else who might have asked about his whereabouts. A sick feeling settled in her stomach. Isaac is keeping charge of protecting B-dubs until a replacement can be in order, Skid added simply. He does need it, in case that guy comes looking for him again. Impulse shuddered. He better not, but it makes sense. B-dubs has done a lot of help, and Rose and the other cause members. It's a big target. And Isaac's tough. He's learned from the best, and can help with any strategies the men might be learning too. Skid's eyes brightened as he walked inside with Impulse. Hermit went over to the stairs. He knows a lot about what those men are up to. Not as much as you think. Impulse shook his head. Mr. A never trusted him. He's lost. He lost a valuable ally. Skid grinned. And we gained a friend. Impulse chuckled, grabbing for the railing as he started to climb up the stairs. Glancing down when he heard the hidden mechanism under the stairs give. I just need to fix that at some point. Impulse frowned, seeing Blake walk out of the room, looking up to see them. Look it, Skid assured him. Maybe tomorrow? Tomorrow. It'll only take a little time. Impulse nodded, smiling down at the boy. Did everything go well? Blake asked, as Impulse went the rest of the way up the stairs. Yep, we set up some security measures and helped Gran and Scar finish up the tower, Skid said happily, looking over at Impulse. Was the roof as well? It could have wings. Skid chuckled. You're preparing for any possibility. For good reason. If Julius can't get to me, he might try to go for someone else. The Hermit reasoned, making it to the door as he put a hand on the knob. You just don't give up, do they? Skid sighed. Neither will we, Impulse said confidently, looking at his friend. He got Blake nodding in agreement. That's true, Skid giggled. Impulse pushed open the door, surprised to see that Tango was awake and sitting up. The Hermit looked over at the sound, smiling brightly when he saw them. Feeling better? Blake asked the Hermit, walking into the room. Yeah, at least I'm not feeling anything. Tango nodded, putting aside a book he was looking at, next to the book with a communicator. That's good, Top. Skid smiled, walking over into the room. As well, Impulse followed. Still, I can't remember how he got in there. Tango frowned, shaking his head. He's like a worm. He can slip into any crevice he sees fit, and use it to his advantage. Skid shook his head, lifting his head high. But Top over here has been doing his best to prepare. He's not coming back, is he? Tango asked wearily. Unfortunately, he's coming to fetch Impulse. Blake frowned. Well, that's not happening, Tango said defiantly. I'll be fine. It won't be easy for him to get to me, Impulse assured him. I'd believe that if I hadn't been attacked by a madman in my workshop, Tango frowned. You had only one person watching. We have many pairs of eyes, Skid reminded him. It won't be easy, Tango nodded. Not impossible. Be stubborn. I know. Blake agreed. He can be sometimes. So did you find anything more about the headband before we were attacked? You were attacked, Impulse pressed, hopefully. Unfortunately not, Tango sighed. That's why I went up there, to see if I could find a spare headband. Besides, was no help. He'd given the extras he had to Rose to deal with. Hopefully it's almost done, Impulse muttered, unease creeping up again, rearing its head. He felt his body grew tense as a chill ran down his spine. He looked back at the door, which is still open. There's nothing. No one was watching. Good day. Yeah, you're probably right. Tango sighed, shaking his head. It just bothers me that Gerald was actually bluffing about that. Maybe he got confused with something else, Skid suggested. Impulse shrugged. Who knows? They didn't talk for much longer, and the stars began to appear in the night sky. After talking about what they'd been doing and how everyone was, he decided to call it a night. Walking back to his room, he heard footsteps behind him. Looking back to see Skid and Blake behind him. You guys really don't have to do this, Impulse chuckled, making it to the door first. I just want to make sure you're okay, Skid assured him gently, opening the bedroom door a moment later, seeming satisfied that it would empty. Why would he attack so soon? Impulse frowned. This is Julius we're talking about. If his boss wanted him to fetch you by a certain time frame, make sure it's done. Blake replied. He's always obedient to the T, even when he didn't need to be, or have to. I loved Wade. Hello. Impulse nodded. Give me a shout I'll give you a shout if I need you. Stay safe, buddy. Skid smiled, giving his friend a quick and firm hug. Impulse returned the embrace, a part of him not wanting to let go. Hopefully tonight I don't get any nightmares, Impulse mused as he pulled away. I've had enough with those for a while. See you in the morning, Skid waved, walking toward his room, disappearing inside. Impulse looked over at Blake. Just stay by the door, just in case, Impulse smiled meekly. I know it makes you feel better. You're my friend. I care about your safety, the boy insisted with a small smile. Not just because of my job, you know. I know. Impulse agreed, stepping into the room. He wished the boy well, closing the door, leaving it open a crack as he immediately started walking to his bed. Noticing the moonlight was hitting the bed brighter than usual. A breeze filled the room as he shivered, looking over to the window. His blood froze. The curtains were drawn, fluttering in the breeze. The window was wide open. He was fairly certain it was locked before leaving that morning. The door suddenly slammed shut behind him as he heard a lock click. The hermit didn't move, wondering if he should call out. She screamed. Surely the boy must have heard the door close. Maybe he thought it was an accident? Had he heard the lock? Unease filled him as a familiar voice came from behind him. I wouldn't scream if I were you. One more chapter, and then we're done. Chapter 11. How did you get in my room? Impulse hissed quietly, the fear fading momentarily as he rolled around. Through the window. What do you think? The man mused. He stood in the shadows by the door. The window was locked, Impulse retorted. The man shrugged, stepping into the moonlight. It was Julius, his face uncovered this time. He could see the young man's dark hair, slightly unkempt, as he stood up on his own leg, tiny piece. His dark gray eyes were added with a wide, unpleasant smile. I had a key. The man pulled out a small catch in his hand as the hermit swallowed. You stole that. No, someone found it for me. I'm poking around when no one was home. He mused. Makes it so much easier to sneak in. Surely if someone would notice an open window, Impulse frowned. That's where you're wrong. Most cult members don't think to look up. Julie said smugly, turning slightly to show a pair of wings. I just flew in. It's fairly quiet if you don't use rockets. Whose wings are those? Impulse snapped. Doesn't matter. He shrugged. I'm here on a simple mission. I'm sure you're aware. Did you really have to hurt Danko? Impulse scowled. He chuckled. I just wanted to see if it worked. And it did. You should have seen the horror on his face when he realized he'd walked right into my trap. Impulse swallowed, looking over to the door warily. Should he try to take his chances through the window? Sure, Julius surely couldn't be fast enough to stop him. He didn't seem to be infected by any potions from what the hermit could see. Impulse reached down towards his pocket. Do we really want to do this again? I have no issue with that, the man mused. Why don't you come with me willingly? It'll be easier for the both of us. I'm not going anywhere with you. Impulse narrowed his eyes. Julius put away the gadget that he'd been holding as he took a step closer. You can't outrun me, Impulse. You know that, the man said slowly, blocking the way to the window. You're coming with me. There's no choice in the matter. He wants to see you. Who wants to see me? Impulse took a step back, running into the bed as he stumbled, catching himself. The man laughed. He'll see. He smiled coldly, pulling something out of his pocket. It was a cloth with some sort of substance on it. I don't want to have to hurt you if I can help it. You didn't have an issue with it last time, Impulse stated, a memory resurfacing in his mind. Trapped in a cage, hearing Jen's plea to do something. He'd sent Beat-Up's dread to Skids, which had resulted in the Super freeing both of them. Could he do it again? Or was he just able to do it because he'd been infected? Thanks, Grammy. Clearly I can't read sometimes. He focused on his friend, wanting desperately to send a message, anything, to signal that he was in trouble. He wasn't sure if anything was happening when the man lunged at him. Impulse screamed, unable to escape in time, feeling the man hold him still by a firm chokehold, shoving the cloth over his mouth and nose, muffling his scream. He struggled, trying to pull away, trying to breathe as he was dragged toward the open window. He heard a door slam open faintly as the lock jiggled. Impulse, the door's locked. Blake's voice called. Are you okay? I'm doing just fine, Julian said out loud, chuckling. I have an axe, Skids' voice insisted, just as the hermit saw something slice through his door, but it wasn't enough to break it. His vision started to darken around the edges, gasping for air as the man stepped onto the ledge. There you go. Relax. I'm not here to hurt you, Julian whispered in the hermit's ear. The door smashed into splinters as the light poured into the room. Skid was right at the door, holding his axe, as his eyes grew wide. Impulse! You're too late, Julius cackled, jumping off the ledge. The hermit hearing rockets, his friend's voice faded away. The cloth wasn't over his nose and mouth anymore. The man was carrying him. It didn't matter. He was too weak to fight back, too weak to resist. His only hope now was that his friends would find him before it was too late. That is where we're going to be ending today. My voice is going hoarse. I probably should stop now. And my nose is getting all woofy. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching this video and watching the stream and enjoying it. I will probably edit the stream title and the stream thumbnail as well, just so it matches with what I need it for. Yeah, the next one, whatever that might be. It might be this week, might be next Monday. I don't know, like I still want to do a Minecraft stream at some point, but we'll see. But yeah, I'll see you guys